All right, let's move on to Armageddon, the 5-part event that kicked off season 8 of The Flash. So if you have not watched through, I'm going to say episode 6, because I do want to talk about episode 6 as well. If you have not watched that of The Flash and stuff, you can press pause, or if you don't mind, if you're not actually ever going to watch The Flash, you can keep on listening and hear us talk all about it. But all right, let's move on and talk Armageddon, which premiered with part 1, November 16th, 2021, kicked off season 8, and it takes place 10 years from now, 2031. It starts with Central City and the coming of Armageddon, which Despero, a alien, which was actually, I think, on the first cover of Justice League of America. And he sees this. He's an alien that has taken Earth as his home, and he is going to go back in time and try to kill Barry, because Barry is the one that apparently causes Armageddon. And he gives Barry 7 days to kind of prove himself by the end of the first episode here. But we also get Ray Palmer coming back here, so that was great to see. So we get some Chester and Ray scenes. We get Iris giving Allegra control of the staff at the Citizen, which now has a whole new office, and Sue Dearborn owns the building of it. And we get the Royal Flush Gang as well, which has appeared a few times in the show. I think they were in Arrow as just a normal gang of like family. And then I don't actually recall if they appeared before this season on The Flash. But
I think they have, but to be honest with you, that's kind of DC's throwaway gang.
Yeah.
If you watch Justice League Doom, the one where Batman comes up with the plans for everything, they're the opening little action sequence in that. So I mean,
okay.
They throw them in pretty much everything.
Yeah, I think I remember them in Batman Beyond. They appear.
Yeah, they did. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of remember them more from than anything else. Okay, so the first incarnation appears in Arrow episode Legacies. Okay, and then we have 2 incarnations appeared in The Flash. The first make a non-speaking cameo appearance in the episode Sound and the Fury, who are swiftly apprehended by the Flash. So I think that's like episode 11 of season 2 or season 1. And then the second time they appear is in this season. So I couldn't really remember them. I don't even know if they got the same actors or not, because it sounds like they...
Why would they? Honestly, yeah. Why would they?
So when they were trying to act like I'm supposed to remember these people from season 1 or 2, I was like, sure, yeah, let's go with that.
Get Cisco's Finder.
But this first episode, I really enjoyed it with having Ray back. I was actually surprised we got full Despero, like alien Despero, and not just like the human form of Despero, who does look a little wonky, by the way, as an alien. But I understand this is a CW show and they don't have the full budget of like the other shows today. But I thought he looked pretty good for a CW budget.
Despero looked better than the Forces.
Yeah, but like he doesn't look as good as like Bizarro or Darkseid.
No, but
or like Doomsday on Superman and Lois.
Well, Superman and Lois has a budget that the Flash doesn't have. Let's be honest. They have that HBO Max money. But look, Despero I thought he looked pretty cool in this.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're in season 8 of The Flash and you're worried about how things look, you stuck it out this long, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Forces looked ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Despero, in comparison, way better.
Yeah, looked pretty good for their budget. The first episode, though, is mostly setting up some stuff. We're 6 months from the end of the Godspeed stuff, and I was like, no Joe? All right. Interesting, right? And then episode 2 happens, which is where we get Alex Danvers on a TV screen, by the way. That was their little crossover for the episode. But we also do get Jefferson Pierce at the end of the episode as well. And this is, they're just trying to get more information on who Despero is. So they call Alex to see if the DEO has anything on his race and all that kind of stuff. And then Barry is going to go after a psychic named Zotar. She causes him to go insane, and he goes and attacks his team. And then we also see news footage showing him attacking residents, and that was something.
And Despero's like, see, you are going to be Armageddon.
Yeah, and they have answers for this, thank God, later on. And then Barry suggests celebrating with Joe West, and I kind of figured there was something else that hinted in, I think, the first episode. Oh, yeah. It may have been the first episode or earlier in the second episode, where Chester is talking to Cecile, and he mentions something about, like, feeling like death or something, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Cecile. And you're like, nobody Cecile knows has died recently, right? So you're, like, kind of confused. It's definitely a hint. And then Barry suggests they celebrate with Joe, but he is informed that he died 6 months prior, and that actually Barry spoke at his funeral, right? Gave his eulogy or whatever. So this causes him to think, I'm for sure going insane if I forgot my mentor figure dying. And he goes to the Hall of Justice. Great seeing the Hall of Justice again, by the way. And he meets with Jefferson Pierce, and he mentions injustice. I think he does that in the second episode, or just end it with that, and then the beginning of the third episode mentions the injustice protocol, which is a nod to injustice, but I think also a nod to that Doom story. I haven't watched the movie, but I think,
I mean, it's not quite, because Doom is like Tower of Babel, which is a Mark Waid when he took over for Grant Morrison's
creates
yeah
ways to take the powers or kill all of the Justice League, and then the villains steal it or something.
He goes, the Justice League is being under attack, and they're like, by who? And he's like, by me, apparently. It's his plans, and it's one of my favorite comic book stories. I love Tower of Babel. Highly recommend you read it.
It's been on my list for a while. Yeah, it's been on my list for a while. Especially Mark Waid.
Highly recommend it. Mark Waid never misses. He's just the best. Might be the best comic book writer of all time. It's certainly up in the conversation. But
he's written over 2,000, by the way. Isn't that nuts?
And you know what? It's insane. I've read a lot, and I still have a lot to read. He's a very prolific writer. But so it's kind of a nod to it, but it really isn't. It's more of a, more of an injustice thing.
Yeah, which is, of course, the reference to the game that has now become a movie and a comic series and all that kind of stuff. But it was, a game where Superman kind of lost it, and this makes sense, right? Because Barry's kind of lost it, right? So he wants his power removed in Justice Protocols. And this was kind of the first thing I was confused about, because to remove his powers, like, Jefferson just keeps zapping him with electricity, but every other time we see him get zapped with electricity, it makes him more powerful. So I was kind of confused on how this worked this time.
Well, if you notice with the Arrowverse, after about the 5th season of a show, the rules of the show don't matter anymore. That seems to be their thing. That's why Legends worked, because it really never had rules to break. I don't get the scene at all. I hated it. I was so annoyed that he was like, oh, I need my powers to be taken away. Especially because he's a guy who's lost his powers before, and it's been bad every time he's lost his powers. So I love Barry, because when he has an idea, it's the only way, and he has to do it because he's determined and he's stubborn. And I love that about Barry Allen, but it creates very frustrating stories, and to me, this was one of them.
I was fine with him trying to get the powers removed because I just figured it's season 8, he's gonna get it back if they do. Right? Like, but I can see, like, if you don't know this is the final season, that can be frustrating for viewers there, or just even the concept of him being so hard headed, right? Because Jefferson tries to have conversations with him, and he's like, "No, you said when I say injustice, you will do this, and you're not doing it." Is kind of how Barry went at him. And then
You said we could play a game after dinner. Sorry,
yeah,
he's such a baby in this episode.
Iris is starting to suspect that Barry was framed and that Joe's death was a setup. And they have this whole thing where they go and see the CCTV footage. And then she's starting to think, oh, maybe I was wrong, because you actually see him. Like, before there was a glitch in the frame. Now there's not a glitch. I, of course, knew, all right, this is not adding up here, right? Then we get Star Labs is going to get shut down, right? Because of the radiation thing.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
And I'm like, hold up here. I know there's a guy showing up in these later episodes. And I know because I've saw pictures and I've seen the press stuff of them being like, he's coming back. I knew the Reverse Flash was coming back. And I said, right around episode 3, when the Star Lab stuff is happening on top of the Joe stuff, on top of everything else going wrong, I was like, here he is, the ultimate hater, right? Who would want to hate and hurt Barry this much but the Reverse Flash? And we get that at the end
it's
of the
honestly the
episode.
best thing. It's the best thing Reverse Flash did. It was his best plan.
Well, I think it was a really great plan, and we get a name for it later. It's his reverse flashpoint, is what he calls it.
I mean, he's not the most creative. He's very intelligent, but he's not the most creative.
His name is Reverse Flash.
Well, Reverse Flash is really just petty. Like, it's like, I'm going to be the reverse of you, but this is his best plan. It honestly, it should have worked. It almost worked, and to be honest, if he was just a little more careful, he would have. But guess what? Ian Bartholome's never careful, because Ian Bartholomew has never been wrong a day in his life.
Man, did I love this. Part 4, by the way, is probably the
best episode
of the whole arc. And probably a top in my whole thing, if I'm going to.
It's the best episode of the season, and it's at that point, it had been the best episode since season 4.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I think it's up there.
Because I really do like season 5. I like the 100th episode when him and Nora are going back in time. I like
okay, since season 5, it definitely beats 6 and 7.
I'd probably agree
since season 5, because that one where Nora goes back in time a bunch is really good. So
that one's good too. Yeah.
So yeah, since season 5. But guys, this episode was so fun. I was so, I get a bit of a thing of appreciation every time from season 7 on that Flash. I've sat down to watch it and then in it make fun of the episode during the episode. Anytime that happened, it was a good night.
Yeah, this episode is great. We get Barry finding out that he is the Reverse Flash. I like this. This is a nod, I think, to Flashpoint, the comic, right? He says, let me show you, I'm the Flash. And he runs off and he comes back and it's the Reverse Flash.
100%.
That is what happens in Flashpoint. He's
100%.
like, I'll show you my suit, Batman. And then it's the Reverse Flash suit. And he's like, what? So I really liked that. I thought that was super fun because this was the most Flashpoint comic we got in the show, because the Flashpoint arc in season 3 was more focused on Barry as finally saving his mom and living out his best life. This one really felt like, all of his friends are against him because they think he's the Reverse Flash. He's lost Iris. Like, this felt like Flashpoint. And he has to team up with Damian Dark who I know that is like one of my big complaints of Arrow and probably of Legends. Legends, they just brought him back too many times. But he is so good in this episode particularly. And I don't know. You know what makes me happy every time too, Chris, is when a character calls Barry Flash. Not like the Flash, but they're like, Flash, you're gonna, like they're talking to him on the comms. Because Damian does this at one point. He's like, Flash, I'm giving you like a minute or whatever, right? You got like 2 minutes. And he's getting his ass kicked by like Chillblaine and Frost. And he's like calling him Flash. And it was a big deal in this episode because nobody else was calling him Flash, right? They all thought he was, they would keep calling him Alan, the way that they always call Reverse Flash Thawne. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yep.
We've got to see Choi as the Atom. We got to see Alex Danvers in the flesh in this. We had Batwoman.
You got a lot of wish fulfillment in this. A lot of things you're like, I wish they would have done this. I wish they would have done this. They did it. It was fun. And season 3's Flashpoint makes me so irrationally angry because of how it was handled. Just like it's this little button, no big deal. But then it's going to have these ramifications forever. But it was just this little episode, maybe a couple episodes. It was horrible what they did to Flashpoint. They did not do it justice. This is the closest they came to a Flashpoint story. And I appreciated every second of it. I thought that this episode was, this whole arc was so fun. And Eobard Thawne, Tom Cavanaugh. You know the reason this was good? Because you thought he had won. You literally thought he won. Like the show could have ended there, and it was just Thawne wins the end. It could have ended there.
Yeah, we get the whole reveal here. He wore his face, and he was the one that attacked the people in the thing. So I'm guessing for this to have worked, if we look at time travel, right? Mm-hmm. He had to have killed Barry last, right? So he probably went back first and did the radiation stuff. Then he goes further back and does the Joe stuff. Then he goes further back and he actually does kill Barry at some point. He says, he's like, I finally did it. I killed you as a kid. I've replaced you. Iris loves me. It was just like so perfectly, like when I first heard Armageddon and I heard Despero was going to be in it, I was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. But the fact that it all came back around to actually being a bigger story with Reverse Flash really knocked it up a few bunches for me. Because he is the most interesting villain and actor, really, Tom Cavanaugh, in this whole series.
Reverse Flash had multiple seasons of The Flash as the Flash, basically. In one episode, he revealed he's been doing... Dude, this is so elaborate. Like, literally, the thing that I was so impressed with, it would be so easy for there to be a wide, gaping hole that makes everything stupid. And there really wasn't. And, dude... killing baby Barry Allen, dude, you are hinged. You are unhinged. Just Tom Cavanaugh eats it up, and the getting with Iris thing, the making her fall in love with her, and then Iris realizing that it wasn't quite right, and there's something to this lightning rod thing. I really like this. I also, when we were talking about the earlier episode, I very much appreciated that Iris West actually did some reporting to figure out the whole Joe thing and the camera thing, and the thing's not adding up.
It's been a while.
And she's got this empire that started from this little blog, and you never see her working. So you're like, huh? So when she actually does reporting, I'm like, oh, she's good at this. This is good. So I appreciated that.
It has been a bit, huh? Like, I feel like we haven't seen her investigate anything since season 6 when she got stuck in the mirror. And like season 7, I don't remember any investigating going on.
I mean, she's always in Star Labs,
Yeah.
She's part of Team Flash. She's the leader of Team Flash now.
Yeah.
She's calling points. So she is the Flash. She not just Barry. Yeah. Remember, they are the Flash.
They are the Flash together. Yes. Then we had part 5, which was a little interesting, right? We get Mia Queen randomly looking for her brother Will, and it's like, oh, there's a time anomaly or whatever. So I went back here thinking it was Will, and it was actually Thawne. And she just kind of gets brainwashed by Despero, and then that's pretty much all she does. I thought they were going to try to wrap up the Green Arrow and Canary stuff here because it was already not picked up at this point. They kind of do with her saying she's gonna go see Felicity.
Eric Wallace is great at this. He's great at almost doing things with other characters from other shows and then not doing anything. I don't know if you saw this, but he came out with the things he wanted to do if he had more episodes and if he had a season 10, and he wanted to wrap up the whole Legends thing, and he said there wasn't enough episodes. My biggest complaint with season 9, the final season, there were like 3 or 4 episodes I considered just straight filler, and it was a short season. And he said we didn't have the episodes for like X, Y, and Z thing that would be really cool. And you're like, bro, you sure? Because I don't think so. He is a master at not doing what he should do.
I think it'd be interesting if they just gave Legends a comic book to wrap up stuff. Right? Like,
yeah, I'm 100%
6 issues.
sure.
Wrap it up.
I mean, they had a great comic book series for each
for
arrowverse
Prime.
one.
Yeah,
and they were great. And another thing, while we're talking about like TV show comics, I don't know if you read the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy comics from that connected to the show between like season 2 and season 3, or season 3 and season 4. Yeah. Anyway, that was really good. So I'm all for continuing what happens on the screen in the comics.
Smallville had season 11, and they was what they called their comic book, and they continued the story as him with Superman. So
yeah, and if they're smart, they'll do it with
the
Snyderverse. If they're smart, they'll just, hey, you want the Snyderverse?
Yeah.
Put it in comics. And then if they don't read it, they didn't actually care about it. There you go.
There you go. All right, so she's gonna go see Felicity, and look, that's probably the last of it, right? She doesn't come back in season 9, right?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, because they set it up where she's like, "Oh, Bart and Nora visit us all the time, so you can visit us all the time too." And it was like, okay, but this episode ends with him, getting rid of Despero's powers. They have to save Reverse Flash because of he's dying due to the timeline, and they figure out the way to stop that is by taking his powers away, which makes Eobard just lose it, and he goes into Argus' custody, which I thought was going to be interesting. Look, I don't know anything that happens after this, but what I was thinking is, at first, I kind of got excited because I was like, ooh, are they going to strap like that cicada dagger on him, and that's what led to him in the future being depowered? No, not really. But I thought that would have been a great way to tie that in.
Man, you're all about season 5, man.
I mean, that's when he last had his powers removed. So I was like, it's the future. Like, that would make sense. But
I dig it. I just think that's like your comfort season, I feel like.
Oh, no, my comfort season's 1, for sure.
Well, everyone's comfort season.
I've been having that on sometimes when I go to bed. But yeah,
I think season 3 is the most bingeable of the ones because
I was on the edge of my seat with 3 because I wanted to know who the Avatar was.
Right, I think it's the most bingeable one of all of them. But I think the stakes for season 3 felt the highest. I think season 4, up to the point where the Thinker gets Ralph, unbelievable. So I think the show gets disrespected a lot because season 6 and 7 really just season 6 and 7, which to me it was a detour that they just never recovered from. But I mean, Armageddon, this is what the show should be.
Yeah, and this is what felt like the most like old school of the seasons in a long time.
Isn't it
So
amazing that if you give Flash stuff in a Flash TV show, that we enjoy it more? Isn't that an
I
amazing
wouldn't even
concept?
I wouldn't even say that was my problem. My problem is actually when they kind of started shifting to this not having an overarching villain. You know,
Yeah,
I understand for some people that was getting old, but when you have a shorter season, that just have a shorter season now, right? Like these seasons are still shorter than the first five, and like it's weird how what they're deciding to do with certain stuff. Like I still think
mhm.
Barry has tons of Flash stuff. Like he's facing Mirror Master in season 6, right? He's facing the forces are in the comics, by the way. They're kind of a relatively new thing, but you know, so he was facing Flash stuff, but it was like not what I was expecting. And the way that they were breaking out some of these episodes in like season 6 and 7 on like the certain arcs, and then just having like, I kind of miss having the season long villain and then being able to have one offs in the middle,
Mhm.
like when we had season 1 and we had the whole villain as Reverse Flash, but you're also getting introduced to Captain Cold and
Mob
Heatwave
roll.
and yeah, all of those, the
Mhm.
Mist, and you're getting
Yep.
introduced to some of his rogues and Weather Wizard, and you know you're getting so many of those that could have continued to pop up, but instead they just kind of at some point leave those behind. Like we had Top show up in this, that was cool,
Yeah, that was great.
and then you're like, she's dead, but now she's not, I guess, because they reversed that, right? So who knows? Who knows? Maybe people
They
do if she
untopped
ever
it.
showed back up again, but um, I just kind of thought we were gonna get like with these, even some of these interlude chapters we have between the big arcs sometimes still don't focus on like a fun villain, um and that's kind of been my main complaint, is that the villains have gone down. So while you're still getting more of them in a season, some of them haven't been, you're getting more big bads in a season, I'll say that, but you're getting less individual villains throughout the
It's
show.
less personal because one of the things that made the show so good was Reverse Flash had a personal gripe with Barry.
So did Zoom,
Savitar,
so did Savitar.
Savitar, yep. The Thinker uh, was such a good villain for Barry. Cicada was such a different villain, and like his motivations were so interesting, and the psychology and going in the mind of his daughter. There were so many cool things you can do with a season long baddie, and then you get like Ramsey blood work. It's it seems half baked, and yeah, what he can do is really cool. I like the blood zombie things. I know I watched it with my mom, and she every time he was on, just hated the episode. I
Yeah, I'm not
love
a fan of the blood work
I,
stuff.
I love the blood work stuff. I thought that was awesome. I would have preferred him be the big bad of that season. But I mean, because that's how he was the one who started that season. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
up to
yeah,
Crisis, pretty much.
yep. And then Crisis took over everything.
And then they come back and they did maybe a couple and then went into Mirror Monarch and then
Mirror
season got
Monarch, I
COVID.
hate it. I hate it. Mirror Monarch.
I thought she was
I
fine. I thought it was just a little long. I mean, and that's where I'm talking about when they decide to split the season and they're like, okay, we're giving 6 to blood work, right? And then we're
mhm.
gonna give like 13 to Mirror Monarch. And it's like, let's let's either even this stuff out or give all 24 to 20 episodes to one person and then have breaks where that
But
person
this,
is not the issue
yeah,
for the week.
the story is disservice to me because Mirror Monarch to me seemed half baked because at the end of it, I was so unsatisfied with the story. She's just like, "Oh, look, people are getting hurt. I
Yeah, well,
care so
that's
deeply."
most of post season 6, right? Is or post season 5 with the Wallace stuff. It's more love and not fight.
Clean up, everybody do their share.
Before we head out, I want to talk about this episode, impulsive excessive disorder, which I
Oh, this
thought
was so fun.
this one was great.
Yes.
I didn't even realize that we did not see Barry in this episode at all, except for like the beginning. They show him at the vow renewal, and that's it. But we have Bart and Nora after their vow renewal, return in 2049 and find out that Jay Garrick is alive, and Joan, his wife, is erased, and that because they used the cosmic treadmill, it caused temporal shifts. So they have to go back to the earliest one, which is December 31st, 2013, which is when Joe is shot during a jewelry heist. Now, this takes place pre-season 1 because season 1 started in 2014. So this is Barry in a coma.
Mm-hmm.
And we just get Eddie Thawne again. We get, Iris in love with, we get to see kind of what Iris kind of was drawn to with Eddie near the end of the episode. We get Bart and Nora continuing to mess up stuff as they go throughout the episode.
They're really fun together too. They have
they are
awesome bounce off. I love the episode so much. And maybe want a spin off with Nora and Bart.
And we get the Royal Flush Gang again, which ties into that first episode again. The first episode mentions how they were apprehended like due to a heist like this, and then you come back and you see like the picture at the end of episode 5, which shows Bart and Nora in it. And this was just really, I loved this episode so much that the first 6 episodes have been out to a strong start. I did watch the 7th one with Goldface returning. I did enjoy that too.
And that one lost me a little bit, but
and that's as far as I'm at right now. So I'm gonna see how it goes from here. But I think just off the back of those 6, this is probably above 7 for me.
Oh, sure.
And might work its way above 6. So we'll see.
Oh, it's way above 6.
This will be the first time I go out of sequence. My favorites ranked have so far been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 might disturb that.
Yeah. I really, really love season 4 or 5. So, I think it's for me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then probably 8. Yeah. But you know what? 4 and 5 to me are interchangeable with 3. Like 3, 4, and 5. If you said any order of that, I'd be okay with it. Like, I think that's splitting hairs, but this show has been such a big part of my life, and it went on for so long, and a really awesome, like, it got me into the Flash, like, completely. Like, I love the Flash because I love this TV show. Like, Barry Allen, such an important character to me. So yeah, I love the fact that season 8 gave me so much to enjoy with the Flash because, yeah, when does he get his boots?
He got him at the end of episode 5.
Okay, yeah. I love that episode. Yep.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. It all blends together now because it hasn't been that far away. Like before we were doing the recaps, it wasn't that hard because it was a long time ago, and then I rewatched some of it.
Right.
So like I had like the new memory and the old memory kind of working together. This I didn't rewatch, and it wasn't that long ago. So like
less than 2 years.
Yeah, 8 and 9, just 7, 8, and 9, just like on my head are one season.
Yeah, so I'll continue watching that. I finished Supergirl. I'm done Batwoman season 2, and thankfully only have 13 more episodes.
What did you think about the ending of Supergirl?
I mean, it was. I like the last few scenes, right? Like when they're at the wedding and I liked seeing Kat again and having her say that she knew she was Supergirl. That stuff was great. The totems and the villain stuff wasn't really.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That finale left me so frustrated, especially because it's like she's being powered up by the sun, and then all of a sudden she can hear the people in the street, but she already has super hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally, I paused the TV and walked away and go, nope, I can't do this. It was such a frustrating example of writing in a superhero show. and it's a show that deserves so much better than its ending. The final scenes are great. I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
I at least got good closure on the characters. They were able to bring back everybody, right? They brought
mhm,
back Jimmy, they brought back Win, they brought back everyone to have this wrap up. Cat, like they brought everyone back. So it was nice to just see them have some final conversations, and I could wrap it up
I
because
would have liked
the
them
show
see.
peaked.
Yeah,
The show peaked for me like the last good season was season 4. So the last 2 were really struggles for me, but I'm glad the
agreed.
last like 20 minutes were good.
Well, I would record Supergirl, and I would find myself not rushing to watch it, and
Yeah, I
I'm
like
very
you
frustrated
find out you have
because,
like 5 on the DVR or something.
dude, seasons 1 through 4 were fantastic. I thought I really liked seasons 1 through 4, Supergirl, and I really liked
Man, they even
Alex
brought back
Danvers.
Mon-El. I like that too. They brought back
Yeah,
Mon-El too.
they brought back Monel. I really like Alex Danvers. I really like Martian Manhunter, John Jones. Um, Two of the best characters in the Arrowverse, and Kara is fantastic. So I think the talent of that show was so much better than the product. It annoyed me to no end because you saw what it could be with seasons 1 through 4. I got really frustrated with the end of the show. I was at the point where I was bad. Like I was like, no, Supergirl deserves better than this. These actors deserve better than this. But I that was the one show of the Arrowverse that really I almost dipped off, and I did it, but I almost did.
Yeah, well, that'll wrap us up this
Yep.
this week. Like we've been saying, we're covering Ahsoka, which at the point of this episode's release, we're heading towards the finale, and you can find us recapping that show over on the Pod Awakens. Otherwise, coming up here in a couple weeks, we'll probably have some Arkham stuff. We'll talk about what we're going to talk about next week later, but just keep on keeping an eye out here as we get closer and closer to hopefully more good news with the strikes and can figure out where we go from here. Aquaman 2 is in December. We'll cover that, I guess. But if you want to reach us, all of our stuff is in the show notes below or in the show notes on your podcast feed at Elseworlds DC Fan on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Our blog, Chris wrote a great article about what made the Flash movie stick with him. I've been putting out some comic reviews again as I read the first issue of the new Cy Spurrier Flash run. So those are up on the blog. Blog is in the links below as well.
And I'm already working on my next one, which will be about Batman the Imposter and uh, how I feel about that book and how I
Mm-hmm.
think it kind of sets up a lot of the Batman vibes. So that should be fun. I'm trying to incorporate multiple medias into the blog post
Yeah.
because that sounds a lot of fun. But I'm having fun doing it. It's really cool to get back to blogging more, and yeah, check it out, guys. I'm really happy to be part of Elseworlds. I think it's so much fun.
Well, yeah. Thank you for jumping in earlier this year. Um,
You
it's
saved
been
me
great.
because I was determined to podcast about this stuff, and you
Yeah.
saved me when I started sinking without a co-host. So, you are the man for that. I told
Well,
you I'd be
thanks.
your Robin, and you're my Batman. So it's
Yep.
perfect.
Let's roll. All right. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll catch you next week